Well, hello there and welcome to Travels with Geordie. If this is your first visit, my name is Peter Knowles and I live on this classic wooden motor cruiser, currently here in Vancouver, British Columbia, along with the loving memory of my pup, Geordie, all the while fixing it up for some pretty ambitious cruising. That's the sort of thing that you might find interesting. Please consider sticking around and subscribing. I'd love to have you. And this week I'm back aboard Geordie and back to work on the upstairs helm, which I know some of you are going to appreciate. But not before getting some work done on MV Zephyrus in her new shed, and that went really well as well. Anyway, let's jump back in time and see how close we can get to catching back up to where we are today. And a big, huge thank you to my Patreon and PayPal supporters for keeping the show going. Thanks ever so much. Cheers, let's get on with it. Okay then, well, I've neglected to film a fair amount of this because it's basically a whole lot of stickiness and sticky on my hands, can't operate the camera. So the splines are all in and epoxied and faired off, and I'm just starting to put some filler on. You can see I've got the first level of fairing filler on here, and it's pretty much done. You can see right here, do you remember how much rot there was in here? Anyway, I dug that all out. There's a lot of filler in there. Anyway, not really proud of that sort of thing. The rest of the splines are going really well. The other thing I'm really not proud of course, is this mess here. But to tell you the truth, it's going remarkably well. This is now completely full. I packed it in with the heavy-duty structural filler and faired it up fairly well, so nothing is proud. And now I'll give it the first coat of fairing filler, and this should come together pretty well and last a couple of years until this can all be rebuilt in wood. Well, it's been a busy couple of days working on MV Zephyrus in the shed and MV Geordie out in the bay. We did manage to bring the big sheet of plywood in from Geordie yesterday and set it up, or I'm going to set it up in the shed as a workbench to do the final glue ups. I think it's going to be a lot easier to do that in the shed. So I'm off now to do the final routing of the side pieces of the helm. So much wood, so much routing, so much epoxy. Anyway, let's get to work. Okay, so we're all laid up. We got our tape underneath to keep it from sticking. We've got our splines test fit. In this case, I'm not going to drive the splines in after. I'm actually going to install them in advance and then just hammer them home. And that shouldn't be too much trouble. Always stressful before a big glue up, but I think we're on top.
Well, I can say there were a few moments when that got a little hairy. I realized I couldn't close this joint up because it was lifting up off the bench. So screwing down this support has solved that problem. I have a perfect joint here, a perfect joint there, and up here. I'm just so pleased. Let me wipe off some excess and wait. Well, there's lots to do because, of course, we have another boat we're working on in here. This is the beginning of a really lovely shaped thing. All right, let's glue up another one. Okay, back to it. What an extraordinary privilege it is to be able to work indoors on a bench in a shop. Oh, with a boat in it. I can't get over this boat shed thing. It's just amazing. It's certainly going to make a lot of the upcoming maintenance an awful lot easier. Anyway, it's late. Bedtime. Cheers. And good morning. Well, let's see if this one comes apart a little easier than the last one. More tape made that a lot easier. Okay. Fantastic, fantastic. This is the template for the curve of the top of the side window. Now it's going to sit against here somewhere, and that'll tell me how I have to trim the pieces I just made. But what I want to do before that is just set it hard against the wall here, put some spacers underneath, and see if it's even possible to bend the strips I made. Now I'm going to laminate the top out of 3 strips of 7/16 mahogany, which I ripped down, and I hoped that 7/16 would take this bend. So let's have a look and see if it even does. Whoops. So if I hook that around there, let's see if this will make this bend reasonably happily. Ooh, stress. Well, looks like I may be okay. I take my time. Excellent. So it can indeed be bent into that radius, and which means I'll be able to triple laminate onto there. Okay, this is looking good. Well, good morning. I'm beginning to template out the process of cutting the curves on here that will match the template that I made for the helm side. And it's got to be, you know, obviously lined up with everything, catch the edge of the wood. This piece of 2x6 I'm also going to use and cut on the same curve so that I have a backer for when I laminate the top pieces here. Anyway, no stress, or not much stress anyway. Okay, that all lines up nicely. All I have to do now is cut these little notches off. All right. Okay, time for the big trace. All right then, now just cut it perfectly. Okay, I can bring the rest of it up on blocks to line up. Okay, everything is lined up and ready to go. Oh. Let's see how it goes. You know, I could do with some more light. Oh, get out, 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 get out. Set the blade a hair lower. Beauty. And just a little tidy up. Okay, rough layout. And mark where the edge is going to be so I can put down my release tape. And then a couple of indexing lines so I can remember where it was supposed to go. So I'm putting release tape on all my little clamp blocks because I expect this to be a sticky mess. There's a few ways to do laminations. One is to try and put one piece on at a time, and the other way is to make sort of a pack of all the pieces in a big sticky floppy mess. And I'm going to opt for the latter, thinking that it's going to be easier to clamp and deal with rather than clamp and unclamp the various pieces as I advance. However, this is probably an opportune time for me to tell you that this is certainly the most significant lamination glue up, especially curved, that I've ever done, and I'm only slightly apprehensive, but like with so many things, it's just a matter of doing it, right? Okay, I think this could also use a little no stickum. Am I getting close? We're going to give the laminations just the slightest sanding, just to roughen up the surface a bit and take any glaze off. I'm going to set up my first clamp down here kind of as a starting block, and just so that I have something to lever against as I get started with this. Okay? Okay. No more stalling. Time to get sticky. I've had another thought that maybe a couple of oh my gosh blocks set here just in case the whole thing wants to get squirrely on me and pop up. This will keep them nicely aligned. Of course, this is 1.5 inches and the actual wood is 1 inch, so it won't interfere with me getting going, but it'll certainly stop a catastrophic slip out failure, because if I know anything about working with epoxy, once you get the epoxy on there, everything gets slippery, really slippery, which in some ways may be good, but yeah. And here we go. I've made up the epoxy thick, but not nearly as thick as for previous stuff, because I've just got to paint it on and don't need too much viscosity. There we go. No disasters so far. Okay, and now for the actual solid wood here. All right, this is where it gets really fun. This is where I really don't want to hear it crack. Take your time. Okay. Oh, I love to see that epoxy settle in. Okay, so I need to put lots of clamps in around the outside edge. There we go. Well, I gotta say, this turned out way better than I thought it was going to. Oh yeah, oh yeah. Okay, this is cured certainly adequately to take it apart, but because it may be under a tremendous amount of tension, I don't even know anymore. By the time it's all epoxied, maybe it's this shape forever. I am going to toss a few screws in, if I show you down here, at each end. A few screws in here and a few screws at the other end. Now, this is not the full top rail. There'll also be a handrail which will be wider and curved, eventually laminated on top of this, or steam bent ideally. So any screws I put here will be covered up by the next lamination. So because I can't get a counterbore in here properly because of the drill, I'm just going to drill these long screw holes here and temporarily put the screws in, and then I can put a countersink on afterwards. Beauty. Okay, yes, 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 look at that. I love it, I love it. Okay, that's not the way it goes. It goes like this. Oh, I still have to cut the curve. Okay, okay, okay. And here we go. Okay. Tight, 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 tight. Beautiful. Good morning, and the second lamination is set. I'm a bit ahead of schedule, which is great. So it means I'm going to get to sand these today, which really makes me happy. So curious to see what they're going to look like. All right, well, let's get this apart. Yeah. Yep. Okay.
Well, hello there. I'd very much like to invite you to a live stream event. Yes, today at 2 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. Well, I say today. Well, I very cleverly figured out that today is Saturday for you Patreons with your early viewing, and today is Sunday, August the 7th, for the regular viewing public. So indeed, there will be 2 live streams this weekend, one on Saturday today at 2 for the Patrons, where we can really dive in and I can make sure I answer every question and engage in a more engaged way. And then tomorrow on Sunday, we can have a general live stream talking about what's going on and what I might be up to in the future, and generally a frequently asked questions. It's been a while since I've done this, so I'm sure there's a few questions out there. Okay, Patreons. Today, Saturday the 6th at 2 o'clock, and the rest of the general viewers, Sunday also today. It's wild, this internet thing, at 2 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. Join in. Love to see you.
This piece of plywood is actually the sheet that I originally put on to MV Geordie at the beginning of this project, and it just seemed ideal to bring in here as a bench, and by cutting an appropriate diagonal in it, we get a 16-foot long, progressively thinner bench because, of course, the boat. But I love it. I think it's going to be just great. All right, let's do some sanding. Pretty excited about this, I can tell you. Okay. Well, I can see I'm going to have to get the big sander out for this, but I am quite content with that joint. Very nice, man. You can hardly see the laminations here. Oh, can't wait to get this oiled up and varnished. All right, those of you who are familiar with this big Bosch sander will remember that this is absolute savage, and will make short work of this sort of thing. Okay. And there we go. Absolutely perfect joint. Love it. We're in the middle of another heat wave here in British Columbia. Nothing like last year's heat dome, but hot. Definitely hot. Well, I can certainly say I am absolutely thrilled with the way these turned out. Really nice, tight joints, and just great. And for my first lamination, definitely very pleased with the way that worked out. Now it's obvious that this is not the shape of the window here, right? And that's why it's jagged, etc. Once I determine the leading edge, in other words, exactly what that line is, and it may not be quite parallel with that, then I can cut the front edge of the window, which will have a nice big radius here somewhere coming off of this. This will all be sanded and cleaned up. This will radius down here, and then down here somewhere it'll come in a big circle here. And this will probably come in an arc, up and then down again in a much bigger circle, coming up to here somewhere. And then, of course, the bottom edge, this is the new extension to the forward cabin. It may be hard to visualize now if you don't remember what I'm talking about, but this about here somewhere, about ½ inch, is going to come along in a big curve and then come down and land about there somewhere, I hope. Of course, this is the control point. It's all the wood I had, so it has to be above that, but I think it comfortably is, actually. So really pleased. I'm leaving a little extra down here just in case I have to put a little plinth block on here or something. Anyway, I'd hate to think I cut it off and didn't want to. So absolutely fantastic. They're both just perfect. So I'm going to take them back over to Geordie this evening. I've done the work I'm going to do on MV Zephyrus. Lady Zephyrus is off on a business trip, so It's all faired in and sanded. She'll be doing the final fairing as well as the painting. So there'll be priming and painting to do. Of course, you know, this was a real mess in here, but it's really quite nice now, and it all came together quite nice. The shed made everything possible, and the fact that I was able to come in here and do up this last bit of glue up and sanding indoors was a real treat. All right, get this stuff aboard, staying aboard Geordie tonight and off to Vancouver tomorrow.
Let's go. Hello and welcome to the Travels with Geordie Beer of the Week, coming to you this week from windy False Creek in Vancouver, British Columbia. When I say windy, I mean really windy, and it's why we're not shooting this up on the bridge deck. It really is quite blustery. Okay, let's get straight to the beer. This is Kilkenny Cream Ale. This is a classic. Most of you will at least have been exposed to it. This is an absolute treat. All the more so because I found it in the back of my fridge, having been left there by a very good friend who was visiting. Thank you so much, Al. Like Guinness, it is has a widget in it, so it pours with a little extra carbonation. You gotta let it sit, and then it'll pour all cloudy down into the glass. Can you see what that's doing there? I just love that look, and we'll let that settle out a bit before we have our first sip. All right, and they look gorgeous. All right, Kilkenny Cream Ale from Ireland, very creamy. Absolutely one of my favorites. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. Okay, well, we have to give a t-shirt away, which is all I really want to do. Caused maybe a little controversy, well, hard to say controversy, a little bit of discussion, which is a good thing, right? About whether or not it was a good idea to end the word of the week or not. I hope you all understand that the point was the word of the week tended to generate a number of comments that were simply the word of the week. Very clever sometimes and very entertaining for me, but for many people, I believe, reading through all those comments when they're really looking about boating comments might not have been ideal. I sort of like the word of the week. We may bring it back in some shape or form, I'm not quite sure how. But anyway, we do need to give a t-shirt away. Following the rules that we set up last week, the most successful, popular, whatever you want to call it, most likes and most replies was Graham of Sailing Skeptic, who incidentally liked the word of the week, and a few people also agreed with him on that. So congratulations, Graham, you've won a t-shirt, and get a hold of me at swag@travelswithgeordie.com and we'll set you up. Cheers. Obviously, we're going to talk about this some more. Let's get on to thanking some wonderful new patrons that came aboard in the last couple of weeks. Heath Pilkington, thank you ever so much, Heath. Mark Fellis, again, thank you, Mark. Cheers. And lastly, thank you so much to Peter Ashby. Cheers to you, Peter, and thank you all three for coming aboard as new patrons. Also, I got a treat. Where is it? Here we go, off the Amazon wish list. This is the Renogy DC to DC battery charger, and this is a really, really neat thing that I've been looking for quite a while. Lots of different kinds of uses for a DC-DC battery charger, but if you're trying to charge a battery on a boat or a car or an RV or a house, I suppose, and all you have is power from another battery, you can't just connect the batteries together. The 12.5, maybe 13 volts, maybe of the supply battery doesn't have enough voltage to trigger the charge E, the battery you're charging, to actually take a charge. To charge at least a lead acid battery, it's probably completely different with lithium. It's outside my bailiwink. It's a word I've been playing with. You need to be able to raise the voltage for a lead acid battery to 13.5, 14 volts before it'll actually take a charge. Well, that's what this does. So this will allow you to charge a lead acid battery from another lead acid battery that isn't being charged at the time. Of course, if we have solar or the engine running or something, or shore power, you can charge all the batteries and be quite happy. Well, imagine yourself in a situation where you have an electric dinghy like me and you need to charge the battery on the electric dinghy. Well, you can struggle along, as I had for years, with a kludgy old automotive 110, in other words AC plug-in, nasty humming battery charger that I kind of had to dangle around in the cockpit. But with this, I can hardwire this permanently, and the house batteries can charge the dinghy battery really, really tidy. So I'm very, very grateful for this. However, as often is the case, this has come without any indication of who sent it. So please, if you were the kind person that sent this to me, please let me know so I can thank you properly. Love that thing, can't wait to get it wired up. All right then, well, as we don't seem to be doing the word of the week anymore, we have very little to continue on with. But keep the discussion going about the word of the week. I think at least for next week, the t-shirt will be awarded at random, completely at random, to anybody who makes a comment of any sort. So please feel free to comment about anything you'd like to comment about. Maybe there's even something I've talked about in the last few minutes that you'd like to talk about. Who knows? We'll figure this out. Cheers. See you next week.